The human mind is an endlessly fascinating puzzle, constantly shaping the way we interact with the world and with each other. While we like to think of ourselves as rational beings, the truth is that much of our behaviour is shaped by hidden psychological forces, many of which we don't even recognise. Here are some psychological facts that reveal the intricate workings of our brains, offering a deeper understanding of how we think, feel, and act. 1. The brain craves certainty and struggles with uncertainty. Your brain is wired to seek out certainty, primarily because uncertainty triggers anxiety. When faced with unfamiliar or ambiguous situations, the brain becomes stressed, leading to a sense of discomfort. This reaction stems from our evolutionary history. Uncertainty in the environment often meant danger, and knowing what to expect helped our ancestors survive. In modern life, uncertainty can come in many forms, whether it's about the future, relationships, or decisions at work, and the brain will often attempt to reduce this anxiety by seeking out clear answers. This explains why people may often resort to making quick, sometimes incorrect decisions to avoid the discomfort of not knowing what comes next. 2. Your brain is hardwired to see faces, even in random patterns. Humans have a unique ability to recognize faces, a skill that is so crucial for social interactions and survival that your brain has specialized areas dedicated to it. These areas are known as the fusiform face area, which allows you to recognize and process faces quickly and accurately. In fact, your brain is so attuned to faces that it can sometimes see faces even where they don't exist. This phenomenon is called pareidolia. For example, you might see a face in the clouds or in a random arrangement of objects. This is the brain's way of processing information that it finds most relevant. Faces are one of the first things we look for in the environment, as recognizing faces quickly can have life or death implications. 3. People tend to act more impulsively when they're tired. Sleep deprivation has a profound effect on your ability to make sound decisions. When you're tired, your brain's prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for rational thought, planning, and impulse control, becomes less effective. As a result, you're more likely to make hasty, emotional decisions without fully considering the consequences. This explains why people often act impulsively when they're sleep deprived, whether it's indulging in unhealthy food, skipping a workout, or making snap judgments in difficult situations. Chronic sleep deprivation can lead to long-term cognitive issues, affecting everything from memory to emotional regulation. 4. The brain processes negative emotions more intensely than positive ones. The negativity bias is a well-documented psychological phenomenon that explains why negative events tend to stick in our minds longer than positive ones. From an evolutionary standpoint, our brains are more sensitive to negative experiences because they often signal potential threats or danger, which required immediate attention and action. This bias helped early humans survive in hostile environments by prioritizing threats over rewards. Today, this tendency can lead to disproportionate emotional reactions to criticism, setbacks, or negative events. For instance, a single criticism can overshadow a dozen compliments, making it harder to focus on the positive aspects of life. 5. Your memory is influenced by the context in which you recall it. Memory isn't a perfect recording of events. It's often malleable and influenced by context, emotions, and the passage of time. When you recall a memory, your brain doesn't replay it like a video. It reconstructs it based on fragments of sensory information, emotions, and your current state of mind. This is why memories can change over time. New information, even subtle suggestions or social cues, can reshape the way you remember things. For example, if you're told by a friend that a particular event was fun, you might begin to remember it as more enjoyable than you initially did. This phenomenon also explains why two people can experience the same event and have completely different memories of it, influenced by their emotions, perceptions, and and post-event discussions. 6. People's behavior can be heavily influenced by the presence of others. Humans are naturally social creatures, and our behavior is often shaped by those around us. This is especially true when we're in groups or in the presence of authority figures. Social influence can take many forms: conformity, peer pressure, and obedience. Research on group behavior shows that people often change their actions to align with the group's norms, even if they don't fully agree with them. This is called conformity, and it happens because the brain seeks social acceptance and fears rejection. In situations where there's ambiguity or uncertainty, people are more likely to look to others for guidance, which often leads to groupthink, where the desire for harmony in a group leads to irrational or dysfunctional decision-making. 7. The brain thrives on novelty, but also needs routine. While the brain enjoys novel experiences because new things stimulate dopamine production, which is tied to motivation and pleasure, it also benefits from routines. In fact, when you develop a routine, the brain experiences reduced cognitive load because it doesn't have to work as hard to make decisions. Daily routines free up mental energy, allowing you to focus on more complex tasks. However, the brain can become complacent with too much routine, which can lead to a feeling of mental stagnation or boredom. This is why it's important to balance the benefits of routine with occasional novel experiences, which stimulate creativity, learning, and excitement. 8. People often underestimate the impact of their social circle on their behavior. The people around you significantly shape your behavior, attitudes, and even your health. Research shows that individuals are more likely to adopt the habits, attitudes, and lifestyles of their social circle than they realize. This is due to social contagion, where behaviors spread within a network of people, much like a virus. If you're surrounded by individuals who have healthy habits, you're more likely to adopt those habits yourself. Conversely, if your social circle engages in unhealthy behaviors, you're more likely to follow suit, even if you're not consciously aware of it. This underscores the importance of choosing your social environment wisely. It can be one of the most powerful influences on your health and happiness. 9. Your brain prefers easy-to-process information. Humans are cognitive misers. Our brains prefer to conserve mental energy whenever possible. This means that when we're faced with complex or ambiguous information, we tend to simplify it in order to process it more easily. For example, when you read a headline or see an advertisement, your brain automatically reduces the complexity of the information to fit your existing knowledge. This is why catchy slogans, visuals, and simple messages are so effective in advertising and communication. When information is easy to understand, the brain processes it more efficiently, and we're more likely to accept it without questioning it. 10. People are more likely to stick with a decision when they've invested time or effort into it. This psychological phenomenon is known as effort justification. When you invest significant time, energy, or money into something, your brain tends to place a higher value on it, even if the outcome is less than ideal. This is why people who spend hours building something or working on a project are more likely to see it as valuable or worthwhile, even if the result doesn't live up to expectations. Effort justification can be seen in everything from relationships to consumer behavior to personal projects. The more effort you put into something, the more you tend to justify and rationalize its worth. 11. Your brain is biased toward visual information. Humans process visual stimuli significantly faster than auditory or textual information. In fact, studies have shown that the brain can process visual input in as little as 13 milliseconds. This rapid processing is one of the reasons why visual content, such as images, videos, or even body language, has a much greater impact than words alone. Visual stimuli are processed in the visual cortex, which is designed to quickly decode and interpret images. In contrast, verbal or textual information takes longer to process, as it involves more complex cognitive systems. This explains why people are often drawn to pictures or infographics over lengthy explanations or articles. 12. Stress can be contagious in a group setting. If one person in a group becomes stressed or anxious, it can quickly spread to others. This phenomenon, known as emotional contagion, happens because the brain is wired to pick up on emotional cues from those around us. The brain's mirror neurons allow us to empathize with others by mimicking their emotional state. This is why you can often sense when someone else is anxious or stressed, even if they haven't said anything. In a group setting, if one person expresses fear or frustration, it can trigger similar emotions in others, creating a collective sense of stress. This is why team leaders or group members with high emotional intelligence can play such an important role in managing group dynamics. 13. Your brain uses context to fill in the blanks of a conversation. When you're talking to someone, your brain doesn't process every word they say in isolation. Instead, it uses context, everything from body language to previous conversations, to fill in the gaps. This is why we can understand phrases like, "He's a little under the weather," even if we don't know the exact details. The brain takes cues from the broader context and infers meaning from past experiences and social norms. This helps us make sense of ambiguous or incomplete information in real-time conversations. However, it also means that misunderstandings can occur if the context is unclear or if the listener's expectations don't match the speaker's intent. Misinterpretations happen because our brains are constantly making assumptions about the meaning of words, even when they're not explicitly stated. 14. People tend to feel a sense of control when they have choices, but too many options can lead to anxiety. The brain likes having control over its environment, and having choices gives you the sense that you're in charge of your actions. However, too many options can actually paralyze decision-making, leading to what's called choice overload. When you're presented with a large number of choices, your brain has to work harder to evaluate each one, which can lead to confusion and dissatisfaction. This phenomenon is often seen in scenarios like shopping, choosing a restaurant, or even choosing a career path. When there are too many options, the brain becomes overwhelmed and can end up feeling anxious or dissatisfied, even after making a decision. Interestingly, people tend to be happier when they have just a few options to choose from, as it reduces the pressure and makes the decision-making process feel more manageable. 15. Your brain doesn't fully form until you're in your 20s. The brain is constantly developing, and it doesn't reach full maturity until a person is in their mid to late 20s. One of the last areas to fully develop is the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and understanding the long-term consequences of actions. This is why teenagers and young adults often make decisions that seem impulsive or reckless to older generations. They simply lack the neurological development needed to fully understand the future impact of their actions. This period of development also helps explain why young adults are more likely to engage in risky behaviours, like experimenting with substances or making spontaneous decisions, while older individuals tend to think more carefully before acting. 16. People are more likely to remember things that are emotionally significant. The brain prioritizes emotionally charged experiences because they are deemed more important for survival. Events that trigger strong emotions, whether joy, fear, anger, or love, are stored more deeply in memory than neutral events. This is why you remember a wedding, a death, or a traumatic event with far greater detail than an average day. The brain releases dopamine, norepinephrine, and cortisol depending on the emotion, which help lock those memories in place. The heightened emotional state during significant events makes the memory vivid and harder to forget. This emotional connection also helps shape how we narrate our own life stories, often focusing more on the emotional peaks and valleys rather than the mundane moments in between. 17. People are more likely to conform when they feel insecure or uncertain. The need for social acceptance is deeply ingrained in human nature. When people feel unsure about how to behave in a particular social context, they often look to others for cues on how to act. This is known as social conformity. The brain tends to follow social norms when we feel uncertain about a situation, which is why peer pressure and groupthink can be so influential. For example, when you enter a new group or workplace, the brain subconsciously evaluates the behavior of others and adapts accordingly. This drive to conform helps us fit into social groups and avoid social rejection, but it can also lead to uncritical decision-making, especially when it comes to sensitive or controversial issues. 18. Your brain is constantly assessing risk, even in situations where you feel safe. Humans are always on the lookout for potential threats. It's part of our survival instinct. This constant risk assessment occurs even when we feel comfortable and safe. For example, while walking down the street, your brain is subconsciously scanning your environment for any signs of danger, like someone walking too close behind you or a suspicious-looking object. The brain's amygdala, which processes fear and potential threats, is always at work, even in neutral or relaxing situations. This is why certain sounds or situations, like hearing sirens or witnessing an argument, can suddenly spike your heart rate or make you feel uneasy. Your brain doesn't wait for you to consciously recognize the danger, it reacts instinctively. 19. People tend to overestimate their control over random events. The brain has a tendency to believe it can control events that are, in reality, random. This is called the illusion of control. It's why people throw salt over their shoulders after spilling some, or why gamblers believe that certain superstitions can affect their odds of winning. The brain craves control, and in an uncertain world, it looks for patterns that don't exist. This illusion helps the brain feel more secure and less anxious about uncontrollable factors. However, this overestimation can lead to poor decision-making, especially in situations involving chance. It's why people often engage in behaviors that they believe will influence outcomes when, in fact, those outcomes are largely random or outside their control. 20. Dopamine plays a crucial role in motivation, not just pleasure. Dopamine is widely known as the pleasure chemical, but it's also crucial in motivating you to pursue rewards. The brain releases dopamine not just when you receive a reward, but also when you expect a reward or when you're working toward a goal. It's why you feel motivated to complete tasks, pursue goals, and seek out new experiences. The anticipation of a reward triggers the release of dopamine, which creates feelings of excitement and motivation to keep moving forward. This is why people who set and work toward clear goals often feel a surge of energy and satisfaction as they approach those goals. Without dopamine, tasks would feel less rewarding and motivation would decrease. 21. People are more likely to act based on how something is framed. The way information is presented significantly influences how we perceive and respond to it. This is known as framing effect. The way a message is framed can change people's choices and decisions, even when the underlying facts are the same. For example, people tend to prefer a product labeled as having a 90% success rate over one with a 10% failure rate, even though both phrases describe the same outcome. The brain is highly sensitive to how things are framed, making us more susceptible to marketing tactics and persuasive messaging. This psychological principle is why advertisements, political speeches, and media outlets often frame issues in specific ways to influence public opinion or behavior. 22. Your brain interprets silence as discomfort or a request to speak. Silence can be incredibly uncomfortable for many people, especially in social situations. The brain experiences silence as a gap in communication that needs to be filled, and this discomfort often leads people to speak out during awkward pauses. In conversation, if someone remains silent, your brain often interprets this as a prompt to continue or to offer your own thoughts. This is why people tend to over-explain things in group settings, or why there's a rush to fill pauses with words. Silence, while powerful and essential for processing thoughts, is often viewed as an opportunity for the brain to keep the flow of social interaction moving. 23. The brain is constantly rewiring itself based on experiences. Neuroplasticity is a remarkable property of the brain that allows it to adapt, learn, and change. Every time you learn something new, encounter a new experience, or practice a skill, your brain rewires itself to accommodate that new information. This means that, even as you age, the brain continues to form new connections and strengthen old ones, which is why cognitive exercises and learning are so beneficial. While the brain is highly adaptable, it can also reinforce bad habits if you're not conscious of the behaviors you're cultivating. The brain's ability to rewire itself means that we are never too old to learn or change. 24. The halo effect makes you judge someone based on one positive trait. The halo effect occurs when you assume that because someone is good at one thing, they must be good at other things as well. For example, if a person is attractive, you might assume they are also smart, friendly, or talented, even if there is no evidence to support this. The brain tends to overgeneralize traits based on first impressions or one standout feature. This cognitive bias is not limited to attractiveness. It can apply to other positive traits like competence or likability. While this can sometimes be helpful in making quick judgments, it also leads to unfair assumptions and the overlooking of important information. 25. Your environment can impact your mental and physical health more than you think. The environment you live in plays a significant role in your mental and physical well-being. Whether it's the design of your home, the people you interact with, or even the weather, your surroundings have a profound effect on your mood, productivity, and health. For example, studies have shown that spending time in nature can lower stress levels, improve focus, and boost overall mood. Similarly, a cluttered, chaotic environment can increase anxiety and decrease your ability to focus. The brain thrives in organized, calming environments, but it's constantly processing the sensory input it receives from the world around it, which influences everything from sleep patterns to energy levels. Everyone believes they understand why people act the way they do, but the truth is, the mind works in fascinating and mysterious ways. Every action, behavior, and thought is influenced by complex psychological forces we often don't even notice. Let's dive into some psychological facts that reveal the hidden truths behind human behavior. 1. Your brain is constantly predicting what's going to happen next. The human brain is like a prediction machine. It's constantly taking in information from the environment and using it to anticipate what's next. This process helps you act more efficiently and react faster to your surroundings. When you walk into a room and someone smiles at you, your brain doesn't just perceive that person's facial expression in the present, it's already making a prediction based on your past experiences. It predicts that this person is friendly or that something positive is about to happen, so you respond in kind. This predictive mechanism not only saves mental energy, but also allows us to anticipate threats. The brain's ability to predict based on past events can explain why you sometimes feel like you knew something was going to happen even before it did. It's your brain's way of making the world more understandable and navigable. 2. Your emotions can influence your memory. Memories are not as fixed as they may seem. While we like to think of memories as clear snapshots of past events, they are often influenced by our emotional states at the time of recall. The brain is highly emotional when it comes to storing memories. Events tied to intense emotions, whether positive or negative, tend to be remembered more vividly than neutral events. For instance, if you were extremely happy or sad during a particular moment, your brain is more likely to encode that event with greater detail. However, the emotions that come with the memory can distort it over time. The brain tends to fill in gaps with emotion-laden information, which can make certain memories feel more intense or more important than they might have originally been. This emotional imprint on memories can sometimes cause us to recall events with a sense of nostalgia, or conversely, with regret, even if the facts of the event don't align with how we feel about it now. 3. People tend to remember faces better than names. This is because the brain is specialized in facial recognition. There are specific neural regions, like the fusiform face area, that are dedicated to identifying faces. Over time, humans have evolved to be exceptionally good at distinguishing faces, which was crucial for social bonding and survival. This ability allows us to instantly recognize friends and acquaintances and assess emotional cues from others. However, when it comes to names, our brains rely on different systems for memory that require more effort and cognitive energy. As a result, people often struggle to recall names, especially when meeting a lot of new faces at once. This is why, even if you can recognize someone immediately, you might not recall their name right away. It's not that you're forgetful, it's just the way your brain processes visual information versus verbal information. 4. Your brain can trick you into believing something that isn't true. The brain is designed to make quick decisions based on available information. However, this means it can also fall prey to cognitive biases. For example, the brain has a tendency to believe things that fit its existing beliefs, even when there is no factual basis for those beliefs. The confirmation bias is a perfect example of this. This bias causes us to look for evidence that supports what we already think, ignoring or dismissing information that contradicts our views. This is why it's so difficult to change someone's mind once they've formed an opinion. They're not consciously resisting new information, but their brain is naturally filtering out anything that doesn't align with their preconceptions. This mechanism helped humans survive by making decisions quickly, but in today's complex world, it can sometimes lead to errors in judgment and reasoning. 5. People are more likely to follow the behavior of others when they're uncertain. Humans are inherently social creatures, and we often look to others for guidance when we're unsure about how to behave. This is particularly true in ambiguous situations. The brain naturally seeks social validation and cues from others to make sense of uncertain circumstances. For example, if you're in an unfamiliar place, like a foreign country, and you don't know how to behave, you'll likely look to the locals to guide your actions. This instinct is known as social proof, and it helps individuals fit in with groups and avoid standing out. It's why trends and social movements can spread quickly. People look to others to determine what's acceptable or popular, even if they don't fully understand the rationale behind it. The brain uses social proof as a shortcut to help you make quick decisions without having to process every detail. 6. The halo effect causes us to make sweeping judgments based on first impressions. When we notice one positive trait in a person, whether it's their physical appearance, kindness, or confidence, we often assume they have other positive qualities as well. This is called the halo effect, and it can significantly distort our judgment. For instance, if someone is attractive, we might subconsciously assume they're also smart or friendly, even if we have no evidence to support that assumption. On the flip side, if someone has a negative first impression, we may think they're rude or incompetent, even if their actions don't entirely support that view. The halo effect shows how our brains tend to generalize based on limited information, and it can cause us to overlook other important factors that don't align with our initial impressions. 7. Fear can make your brain more focused. When faced with a threatening or dangerous situation, the brain releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals sharpen your focus, increase alertness, and prepare your body for fight or flight responses. This reaction, while essential for survival, can also make you more alert and focused on the task at hand. This is why some people perform better under pressure. Fear can block out distractions and make you concentrate intensely on the immediate threat. However, while fear can increase focus, chronic fear or anxiety can have the opposite effect. Over time, prolonged stress can actually impair cognitive function and reduce your ability to make clear decisions. 8. Your brain struggles to differentiate between a real and imagined experience. The power of the mind is extraordinary. When you vividly imagine an experience, whether it's a joyful moment, a stressful situation, or even something as mundane as eating your favorite food, your brain processes it as if it were actually happening. This phenomenon is why athletes use visualization techniques to improve performance. When they imagine performing well, the brain activates similar neural pathways to those used when actually performing the action. The same concept applies to negative experiences. Imagining a stressful event can create a real sense of anxiety and fear, which is why thoughts can sometimes feel like tangible experiences. The brain is not always aware of the difference between what's real and what's imagined, which can have a significant impact on our emotional and physical states. 9. People are more likely to act impulsively when they're tired. When you're tired, your brain doesn't process information as efficiently as it does when you're well rested. Sleep deprivation impairs decision-making by weakening the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking and self-control. This makes it harder to weigh the consequences of your actions, leading to impulsive behavior. For example, when you're tired, you might make unhealthy food choices, skip a workout, or make a risky decision without considering the long-term effects. That's why experts recommend getting enough sleep, not just for physical health, but also for mental clarity and emotional regulation. 10. People are more likely to remember the beginning and the end of an experience. This phenomenon, known as the serial position effect, refers to the tendency to remember the first and last parts of an event more vividly than the middle. This bias has profound implications for everything from job interviews to speeches to relationships. If you start strong and finish well, people are more likely to remember the experience overall, even if the middle is forgettable. This is why your opening statement in a presentation is crucial. It sets the tone, and if you finish with something memorable, you'll leave a lasting impression. 11. Your brain tends to focus on negative information more than positive. This is known as negativity bias, a natural tendency for your brain to give more weight to negative experiences than positive ones. From an evolutionary standpoint, this bias helped our ancestors focus on threats or dangers in order to survive. As a result, negative experiences, whether it's a harsh comment or a stressful event, tend to stick in your memory longer than positive experiences. This bias affects your everyday life, making you more sensitive to criticism than compliments. It's why one negative comment can overshadow numerous positive ones, and why bad events often feel more significant than good ones. Overcoming this bias requires conscious effort to shift focus to the positive, but doing so can improve mental resilience and well-being. 12. Your brain can get addicted to stress. While we often think of addiction as being linked to substances like alcohol or drugs, the brain can also become addicted to stress. The rush of adrenaline and cortisol during stressful moments can feel addictive, making you crave that intensity even when it's harmful. People who thrive on high-pressure situations, or those who constantly face deadlines, may feel a sense of exhilaration from stress. Over time, this can lead to unhealthy patterns of behavior, where the body becomes so used to being in a state of heightened stress that it becomes difficult to feel relaxed. Learning to manage stress and finding balance is crucial to breaking this cycle and protecting mental health. 13. The human brain can't focus on multiple tasks at once. This is a common misconception. While you may think you're multitasking, your brain is actually switching back and forth between tasks. This switching takes cognitive resources and reduces efficiency, which can lead to mistakes. When you're juggling multiple tasks, you're dividing your attention across them, and as a result, each task suffers in terms of quality and focus. Studies have shown that multitasking can even lower IQ temporarily and increase mental fatigue. Instead of multitasking, focusing on one thing at a time can increase productivity and improve performance across the board. The brain works best when it can dedicate full attention to one task rather than splitting its focus. 14. Your brain has a limited capacity for decision-making. The paradox of choice explains why having too many options can actually lead to stress and indecision. The brain has a finite amount of cognitive resources, and constantly making decisions drains these resources. As a result, when faced with too many choices, the brain becomes overwhelmed, leading to a decision-making paralysis or the decision to opt for the easiest option. This is why people often feel overwhelmed by long shopping lists or complicated tasks. They have to use a significant amount of cognitive energy to make decisions, which can lead to exhaustion and poor choices. To combat this, reducing the number of options or simplifying choices can enhance clarity and improve decision-making. 15. People tend to remember faces more than names. This is due to the specialized processing systems in the brain designed for face recognition. Our brains are equipped with areas specifically dedicated to recognizing faces, making it easier to spot a familiar face in a crowd, even after a long time. In contrast, names don't have the same specialized neural systems, and they require more cognitive effort to recall. While faces are processed in the fusiform face area, names are stored and retrieved from the brain's memory systems, which are not as specialized. This is why you can easily recognize a person you've met before, but remembering their name takes more time and effort. 16. People make snap judgments based on appearance. The brain is constantly making quick judgments about others, often within milliseconds of meeting someone. This phenomenon, known as thin slicing, is when the brain makes rapid decisions based on limited information, such as someone's facial expression, body language, or voice tone. These snap judgments often occur unconsciously and can shape the way we interact with people, sometimes even before we know anything about them. While this can be useful in making quick decisions in social situations, it can also lead to biases and misjudgments based on appearance alone, which is why it's important to challenge first impressions and give people a chance to reveal more about themselves. 17. Your brain responds more to negative feedback than positive feedback. This is another example of the brain's negativity bias, where negative experiences, such as criticism or failure, activate stronger emotional responses and are stored more vividly in memory. In contrast, positive feedback tends to be processed in a more neutral or less intense way. The reason for this is rooted in survival instincts. Negative feedback or criticism could represent a threat, so the brain prioritizes it in order to prevent future mistakes. This can be frustrating, as we tend to focus on our flaws or failures rather than our successes. To improve resilience, it's important to consciously focus on the positive and balance negative feedback with affirmations of success. 18. Humans are wired to be social creatures. The brain is hardwired to seek connection with others, as social bonding has played a critical role in human survival. The release of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, helps foster trust, empathy, and attachment between individuals. This is why social interactions, whether they're with family, friends, or even strangers, can lift your mood and improve your mental health. The need for social connection is so strong that people who are isolated or lack close relationships often experience symptoms similar to physical pain. This underscores the importance of nurturing social bonds for both emotional and physical well-being. 19. The brain's default mode network is active when you're doing nothing. When your mind is at rest, like during daydreaming or idle moments, the brain's default mode network, DMN, is activated. This network is involved in processes like mind wandering, self-reflection, and social cognition. While the DMN is often associated with idle moments, it's actually important for problem solving and creative thinking. Many people have moments of insight or come up with their best ideas when they're not focused on anything specific. This is why sometimes the best ideas come to you when you're doing something mundane, like walking or taking a shower. Your brain is allowing itself to make connections that it doesn't have the mental space for when it's focused on tasks. 20. People can pick up on micro-expressions that reveal hidden emotions. Micro-expressions are tiny, involuntary facial expressions that occur within a fraction of a second. These expressions can reveal hidden emotions, such as anger, fear, or disgust, even when someone is trying to hide them. The human brain is highly attuned to these subtle cues, often recognizing them without conscious awareness. This is why you can sometimes sense when someone is lying or feeling uncomfortable, even if they're trying to appear calm or composed. Being able to read these micro-expressions gives humans an evolutionary advantage, allowing us to detect potential threats or deception in social situations. 21. Your brain can trick you into thinking something is familiar. This is known as the familiarity heuristic, and it happens when you perceive something or someone as familiar simply because it resembles something you've encountered before. The brain tends to make these quick judgments to conserve energy and avoid overthinking. However, this can also lead to false memories or mistaken recognition. For example, you might feel that someone is familiar because their face or voice reminds you of a friend or family member, even though you've never met them. The brain's reliance on familiarity can be helpful for quick decision-making, but it can also lead to misidentifications or biases. 22. Your brain is constantly judging the emotions of others. Humans are exceptional at reading other people's emotions, even when they don't speak a word. The brain uses both conscious and subconscious processes to decode facial expressions, body language, and vocal tones to determine how someone is feeling. This ability to quickly assess others' emotional states is essential for social interactions, as it helps you respond appropriately in different situations. The mirror neurons in your brain allow you to feel empathy and react to another person's emotional state almost instantly, which is why you can often feel someone's pain or joy just by observing them. 23. Stress can actually improve your performance in the short term. Stress isn't always harmful. In small doses, stress can sharpen your focus and enhance your performance, especially in high-stakes situations. This is because stress activates the fight or flight response, releasing adrenaline and cortisol that heighten your alertness, increase your heart rate, and prepare your body for action. This heightened state of arousal can help you perform well during presentations, exams, or sports events. However, chronic stress can have detrimental effects on the brain, leading to burnout, anxiety, and physical health issues. It's all about balance. Stress can be useful for motivation, but long-term exposure can overwhelm the system. 24. The brain needs downtime to function optimally. While it may seem counterintuitive, the brain is not built for constant work or stimulation. Just like the body, the brain needs rest and recovery to function properly. Studies show that taking breaks, especially in the form of naps, can significantly improve focus, memory, and learning. The brain uses downtime to consolidate memories and integrate information. Without rest, cognitive function diminishes and productivity decreases. This is why taking short breaks throughout the day and getting adequate sleep is crucial for maintaining mental sharpness and overall brain health. 25. People tend to seek social validation from others. Humans have an innate desire to be liked and accepted by others, which is why we often seek validation in the form of compliments, likes on social media, or approval from peers. The brain's dopamine system rewards us when we receive positive feedback, which reinforces the desire for social acceptance. This need for validation is so strong that it can influence decisions, behaviours, and self-worth. While it's normal to want approval, too much reliance on external validation can lead to anxiety and insecurity. True self-esteem comes from internal validation, not just from what others think of you. The human mind is one of the most intricate and complex systems in nature, constantly shaping how we experience the world. While we may think we know ourselves, there are countless psychological forces working beneath the surface that guide our thoughts, actions, and decisions. Let's dive into some psychological facts that shed light on why we do what we do, often without realizing it. 1. Your brain uses emotions to prioritize information. When your brain processes information, it doesn't treat all data equally. Emotional experiences are stored more vividly than neutral ones because the brain is wired to prioritize emotional information. This evolutionary adaptation helped humans remember and react quickly to potentially life-threatening events. Today, this system still works to our advantage by highlighting emotional content, whether positive or negative, so we can respond quickly to what's important. For example, if you have an emotional reaction to a particular story, that event will likely stick in your mind far longer than an event that didn't evoke any strong feelings. 2. Your body language can influence your emotions. It's a well-known fact that emotions can affect body language, but what's fascinating is that the opposite is true as well. Your body language can influence your emotions. When you adopt a confident posture, standing tall with your shoulders back and chin up, your brain will actually send signals to your body that reinforce feelings of confidence. Conversely, slumping or crossing your arms can make you feel more closed off or insecure. This is why body language is often used by therapists, public speakers, and performers to change their mindset or increase engagement. The mind and body are deeply interconnected. 3. People are more likely to help others when they feel they are being watched. The presence of an observer can significantly influence behavior. When people believe they are being watched, whether by another person or even just a camera, they are more likely to engage in pro-social behavior, like helping others or following social norms. This is due to the brain's awareness of social accountability. Knowing that others are watching makes people more conscious of their actions and motivates them to act in a way that aligns with societal expectations. This phenomenon is often used in behavior modification strategies, such as public service announcements or marketing campaigns. 4. Memory is not as reliable as we think. Many people assume that memory works like a perfect recording system, capturing every detail of every experience. In reality, memory is much more flexible and prone to distortion. When we recall an event, the brain does not replay it like a video. Instead, it reconstructs the memory based on fragments of information. These memories can be altered by various factors, such as time, suggestion, or even our emotional state at the time of recall. This is why eyewitness testimonies can be unreliable and why people often remember events differently from others involved in the same situation. 5. People's behavior can change depending on the way information is presented. The way information is framed can dramatically alter people's decisions. This is known as the framing effect, a cognitive bias where people's choices are influenced by how information is presented rather than the actual content of the information itself. For example, if a medical procedure is described as having a 90% survival rate, people are more likely to accept it than if it's described as having a 10% mortality rate, even though both statements convey the same information. The brain is sensitive to framing, making it easier to manipulate decisions and opinions by changing how facts are presented. 6. Your brain is constantly making assumptions about the world. Every second, your brain processes vast amounts of information. To cope with this influx, it creates assumptions and mental shortcuts to quickly make sense of what's happening. These assumptions are based on past experiences, learned patterns, and expectations. However, while these shortcuts are efficient, they can also lead to biases. For instance, the confirmation bias makes you more likely to accept information that supports what you already believe, while dismissing anything that contradicts your views. Your brain's constant need to fill in gaps can shape your perception of reality, sometimes leading you to false conclusions. 7. People tend to be more generous when they feel appreciated. The brain's reward system is activated when we feel appreciated. When you receive a genuine compliment or recognition for your efforts, the brain releases dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter. This increase in dopamine makes you feel more positive and valued, which in turn encourages you to give back or reciprocate. This is why people who feel valued by others are more likely to help or contribute in social situations. Appreciation fuels generosity because it strengthens the sense of connection and reinforces positive feelings toward others. 8. Social media can hijack your brain's reward system. Social media platforms are designed to keep you hooked by leveraging the brain's natural reward system. Every like, share, or comment you receive triggers a release of dopamine, the same chemical released when you experience something pleasurable. This constant feedback loop can create an addiction to social validation, where you seek more likes or attention to maintain that dopamine rush. The unpredictability of social media, where sometimes you get more attention and sometimes less, mimics the brain's response to gambling, which is why it can be so hard to disconnect. 9. People tend to underestimate their ability to change. One of the most common misconceptions is that we are stuck with our personality traits or behaviors. The brain, however, is incredibly adaptable. Through neuroplasticity, the brain constantly rewires itself, allowing us to change habits, behaviors, and even aspects of our personality. While change can be challenging, particularly if it involves overcoming deeply ingrained patterns, it is entirely possible. The key lies in creating new neural pathways through consistent effort, self-reflection, and new experiences. With practice, what once felt difficult or impossible can become second nature. 10. People's perception of time changes depending on their age. As people grow older, they often perceive time as moving faster. This is because as you age, you accumulate more experiences, which makes each individual event seem smaller in comparison. When you're young, each year is a larger proportion of your life, making time feel slower. However, as you get older, each year represents a smaller fraction of your life, which accelerates your perception of time. This is why people often feel like time flies as they age. There are fewer new experiences to help slow the clock. 11. People are more likely to act on instinct when they're tired. When you're fatigued, your brain's decision-making capabilities decrease. The prefrontal cortex, which helps you reason and plan, doesn't function as well when you're tired, leading to more impulsive decisions. This is why people tend to make poorer choices when they haven't slept enough, whether it's eating junk food, skipping an important task, or engaging in risky behaviors. Your brain is less capable of considering long-term consequences when it's exhausted, focusing instead on immediate gratification or relief. 12. People are more likely to change their behavior when they feel accountable. When people feel personally accountable for their actions, they are more likely to act ethically and responsibly. Accountability triggers the brain's self-regulation system, making you more aware of your decisions and actions. This is why people are more likely to follow rules in a work setting when there are clear expectations and consequences. Accountability encourages us to stay aligned with our values, helping to reduce temptation or misconduct. 13. Emotions can influence your decision-making in ways you don't realize. The brain processes emotions and logic in different parts. Emotions often influence decisions more strongly than reason, especially in situations of uncertainty. Even when people believe they are making rational choices, their emotions often play a significant role. For instance, fear can make you avoid risks, while happiness might make you more willing to take chances. These emotional undercurrents shape decision-making by influencing how we assess options, even when we think we're being objective. 14. The brain prefers to focus on the negative to ensure survival. Our brains are evolutionarily wired to focus on potential threats more than positive stimuli. This negativity bias helped early humans survive by prioritizing dangers, such as predators or environmental hazards, over things that might be safe or enjoyable. As a result, negative experiences often leave a stronger imprint on memory, and people are more likely to notice bad news or threats in their environment. While this bias was crucial for survival, it can lead to feelings of anxiety or stress in modern life, where threats are often less immediate or tangible. 15. People often misjudge their emotional state because of body sensations. The brain often misinterprets physical sensations as emotions. For instance, when your heart races or your palms sweat, you may interpret it as anxiety, even if the sensation is just from physical exertion. This is because the brain doesn't always differentiate between emotional and physical states, so it assigns emotional meaning to physical cues. This can lead to misdiagnosing how you feel and may explain why some people experience physical symptoms before they fully realize they're stressed or anxious. 16. The brain can quickly adapt to new environments. When you step into a new environment, the brain begins processing everything differently to help you adjust. It reorganizes itself to prioritize the most relevant information, such as learning new social norms, figuring out patterns, or even memorizing new routes to work. Neuroplasticity enables this adjustment, helping people integrate into new cultures, cities, or jobs with relative ease. The more time you spend in a new environment, the quicker your brain adapts and creates new cognitive shortcuts. 17. Dopamine is the brain's motivation chemical. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a key role in motivation, pleasure, and reward. It's released when you accomplish something significant or anticipate a reward. This is why the brain is motivated to achieve goals. It's not just about the outcome, but about the process of achieving it. Dopamine gives you the push to keep going, whether it's finishing a project, getting a promotion, or even completing small tasks throughout the day. This system is part of the brain's reward circuit and encourages you to repeat behaviors that bring you pleasure or satisfaction. 18. Your brain's attention span is much shorter than you think. Research has shown that the average attention span for an adult is roughly 20 minutes. This means that after 20 minutes of intense focus, your brain begins to struggle to maintain concentration. This is why many people feel the need to take breaks after a short period of focused work, whether it's a walk, a snack, or just changing tasks. The brain can only concentrate it for so long before it needs to rest and refresh in order to stay productive. 19. People tend to follow the behavior of others in uncertain situations. Humans are inherently social creatures, and when we are unsure of how to behave, we instinctively look to others for cues. This is known as social proof, a psychological phenomenon where we assume the actions of others are correct because we believe others have more information or experience. This behavior is amplified in situations where we feel uncertain or anxious. For example, if you're in a foreign country and unsure about how to behave in a particular setting, you're likely to observe the behavior of locals or fellow travelers and mimic it. This social mimicry allows you to fit in and avoid feeling out of place, but it also highlights how we rely on external validation to guide our actions. 20. Your brain reacts to rejection in the same way it reacts to physical pain. Social rejection can be just as painful as physical injury. When you experience emotional rejection, whether it's being excluded from a group or turned down for a job, the brain's pain centers are activated, triggering the same neural pathways as when you stub your toe or suffer a cut. This reaction is believed to be an evolutionary mechanism designed to encourage social cohesion and group bonding. Being ostracized or excluded threatens survival in our evolutionary past, so the brain treats it with the same level of distress as physical harm. This is why rejection can feel like a physical wound, making it harder to cope with in the short term. 21. People tend to perform better when they believe they can succeed. This concept, known as self-efficacy, is one of the key drivers of motivation. When you believe that your efforts will lead to success, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical associated with motivation and pleasure. This chemical boost encourages you to keep pushing forward, creating a positive feedback loop that fuels further efforts. However, when people lack self-efficacy, when they doubt their abilities or feel incapable of achieving their goals, this can lead to a lack of motivation, self-doubt, and ultimately, failure. The belief in your own ability to succeed is critical for maintaining motivation and achieving long-term goals. 22. The brain prioritizes negative emotions for survival. The brain has evolved to respond to negative emotions more strongly than positive ones, a concept known as negativity bias. This bias developed as a survival mechanism, helping humans pay more attention to potential threats than to pleasant experiences. For example, if you hear a rustling in the bushes, your brain immediately focuses on the possibility of danger, such as a predator, rather than the chance of finding food or a pleasant experience. This heightened sensitivity to negative stimuli made it easier for early humans to react quickly to threats and ensure their survival. However, in modern life, this bias can make people overly focused on the negative aspects of situations, leading to unnecessary stress or anxiety. 23. People tend to overestimate their ability to multitask. Multitasking is a common practice in modern life, but the brain is actually not very good at it. When you think you're multitasking, switching between several tasks at once, your brain is actually rapidly shifting attention between tasks, which reduces efficiency. Studies have shown that multitasking leads to more mistakes, increased mental fatigue, and slower task completion. The brain's attention span is limited, and each time you switch tasks, there's a cognitive cost to refocusing. While it might seem like you're being more productive, multitasking can actually harm performance. Focusing on one task at a time allows the brain to engage fully, leading to higher quality work and greater overall efficiency. 24. People are more likely to follow social norms when they're in large groups. Human behavior is often shaped by the social context in which we find ourselves. Conformity plays a significant role, especially in larger groups. The brain is wired to seek social acceptance, and in a crowd, the pressure to conform increases. This is due to a psychological phenomenon called normative social influence, where individuals conform to group norms to avoid social rejection or discomfort. This pressure to conform can be seen in everything from fashion trends to opinions on social issues. The larger the group, the stronger the tendency to conform, even if an individual personally disagrees with the group's behavior. This is why groupthink can occur in organizations or political movements, where individuals adopt a group stance without critically assessing it. 25. The brain processes visual information faster than verbal information. Humans are inherently visual creatures. Our brains process images 60,000 times faster than words, which explains why visuals can have such a powerful impact on our emotions and perceptions. When you look at an image, your brain can immediately extract important details, such as the emotional state of a person, the environment's mood, or the overall message without needing to process words. This is why advertisements, movies, and visual art can evoke such strong emotional responses. The brain can interpret visual stimuli with incredible speed and accuracy, making images a more effective means of communication than words in many cases. 26. People are more likely to help others when they're in a good mood. Positive emotions have a direct impact on pro-social behavior. When you feel happy or content, your brain is more likely to engage the empathy centers, making you more attuned to the needs of others. This emotional state increases the likelihood of offering help, whether it's something as small as holding the door for someone or as significant as volunteering your time for a cause. The brain's dopamine and oxytocin release when helping others creates a sense of satisfaction, reinforcing the desire to continue doing good deeds. Conversely, when you're feeling stressed or negative, you may find it harder to offer help because your brain is focused more on self-preservation than on helping others. 27. Your brain struggles with ambiguity. Ambiguity creates a discomfort because the brain craves clarity. Humans evolved to make quick, efficient decisions based on available information, but when faced with uncertainty, the brain experiences anxiety. This discomfort leads people to either avoid ambiguous situations altogether or make decisions based on incomplete or biased information. For example, when you don't know whether a person likes you, your brain fills in the gaps with negative assumptions, leading to stress or unnecessary worry. The discomfort with ambiguity can drive people to seek certainty, sometimes at the expense of making informed decisions. This is why clear communication and transparency are so important in relationships, workplaces, and society as a whole. 28. Your brain can become addicted to certain behaviors. Addiction isn't just about substances like drugs or alcohol. Habitual behaviors can become addictive as well. The brain's reward system is heavily involved in reinforcing habits, whether they are positive or negative. Behaviors that release dopamine, like checking your phone for notifications, playing video games, or even eating junk food, can create a cycle of reinforcement. Over time, the brain begins to crave these behaviors, seeking out the reward or positive reinforcement associated with them. This is why people can become addicted to things like social media, shopping, or even gambling. The brain is trained to seek out repeated stimulation that leads to emotional satisfaction, reinforcing the desire to engage in the behavior again and again. 29. Your brain is constantly predicting and correcting your movements. Your brain doesn't simply react to your surroundings, it predicts them. Before you move, the brain sends out predictions about what will happen based on your body's current state and past experiences. This allows you to make quick adjustments and act fluidly. For example, when you reach for a cup, your brain predicts the distance, angle, and speed needed to grab it, and it adjusts your movement as needed. If you were to unexpectedly miss the cup, your brain would quickly correct its prediction and make the necessary adjustments for the next attempt. This constant process of prediction and correction helps make everyday actions more efficient and precise. 30. People are more likely to remember information when it is presented as a story. Humans have an innate ability to connect with stories on a deep level. The brain responds to storytelling by creating stronger emotional and cognitive links to the information. This is because stories engage multiple regions of the brain at once, including those responsible for sensory processing, emotions, and memory. Whether it's a personal anecdote, a historical event, or a fictional narrative, the brain processes the information in a way that makes it more memorable. This is why marketers, educators, and leaders often use storytelling to communicate complex ideas. They know that people are more likely to remember and internalize information when it's framed as a compelling narrative.
1. Women remember the emotions, not just the words. When a woman hears something, she doesn't just record the sentence like a tape recorder. She absorbs how it was said, the tone, the tension, the softness, the slight hesitation in a voice. That emotional layer gets stored much deeper in her memory than the literal words themselves. That's why she can look at someone years later and remember exactly how that moment made her feel. even when the details of the conversation are blurry. For women, emotions are not background noise, they're the foundation. This is also why careless tones can cut deeper than careless words. What you say might fade, but how you made her feel becomes a permanent chapter in her emotional memory. 2. A woman's silence can say more than 1,000 words. When she goes silent, it's not always indifference. Sometimes, silence is what happens when every explanation has already been given, every emotion already spilled. It's not weakness. It's power. It's protection. It's the point where she decides her peace matters more than being understood by someone who isn't listening. People often misread a woman's silence as coldness, but in truth, it's often the sound of someone who has simply learned not to waste her words on ears that don't care. That silence is heavy. It's not empty. And if you've ever seen a woman choose silence over speaking, you've witnessed strength disguised as stillness. 3. Women smile even when they're broken inside. Many women learn from a young age to smile through pain. Society often teaches them that quiet strength is admirable, that vulnerability is weakness, that being too emotional makes them less believable. So they wear a smile even when it hurts. It's not because they don't feel pain, it's because they've learned to protect their hearts from the world's judgment. That soft smile can be a mask, a wall, and a quiet scream all at once, and those who see only the surface will never understand how much strength it takes to smile through the ache. 4. Women form emotional bonds faster and deeper. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, plays a powerful role in how women emotionally connect. When a woman starts trusting someone, her brain creates a deeper emotional attachment far quicker than she may even realize. That's why betrayal cuts so sharply. To her, a bond isn't just a moment. It's a thread woven into her sense of safety. Once that trust is established, she lets down walls that were built from years of pain, insecurity, and hard lessons. She doesn't just connect with words. She connects with energy, with consistency, with how someone shows up when the world gets loud. 5. A woman who seems cold has usually been warmed too many times. That distant woman who appears untouchable wasn't always that way. Most of the time, she's the woman who gave too much of herself in the past, her patience, her trust, her heart, only to be left carrying shards of it alone. Coldness isn't her nature. It's her defense. It's a quiet warning. I've been here before, and I won't break the same way twice. Beneath the layers of calm detachment, there's often a soul that once loved fearlessly. 6. Women notice energy before words. A woman can walk into a room and instantly feel when something's off. She may not have proof, but she senses it. The shift in tone, the subtle change in rhythm, the way someone avoids her eyes. This heightened sensitivity isn't weakness. It's emotional intelligence sharpened through years of observing, adapting, and surviving. She doesn't need an explanation. She reads the air. 7. A woman who loves deeply remembers details forever. When a woman truly loves, she remembers things you didn't even notice you did. She remembers how your voice cracked at 2 a.m. when you finally opened up. She remembers your favorite snack on days you were exhausted. She remembers what made you laugh, what made you quiet, what made you real. Love for her isn't just a feeling. It's a map of everything that made the connection feel alive. 8. Women forgive faster than they heal. When a woman says, "It's okay," it often isn't. It's her way of holding peace together while she bleeds on the inside. Forgiveness for her isn't erasure, it's survival. But wounds don't disappear just because she decided to forgive. They stay, quietly shaping how she moves, how she trusts, how she protects herself the next time. 9. Women feel emotions. In layers, not lines, emotions for a woman are rarely black and white. She can feel joy and grief in the same breath. She can love someone deeply while knowing she needs to walk away. She can smile while her heart aches. These layered emotions are part of what makes her both delicate and fierce. To understand her, you have to stop looking for simple answers. 10. When a woman trusts you, you hold a fragile power. Earning her trust isn't a game. It's a slow, quiet unfolding of everything she's kept hidden. When she chooses to trust, she isn't just handing over secrets, she's handing over the softest, most unguarded part of her soul. If you ever hold a woman's trust in your hands, know that breaking it doesn't just change how she sees you, it changes how she sees the world. 11. When a woman starts distancing herself, it's not random. It's a decision born in silence. People often think emotional distance happens overnight, but with women, it almost never does. Before she pulls away, she notices every subtle shift. She absorbs every quiet betrayal, every small disappointment, every moment someone made her feel unseen. She collects them like pebbles in her pocket, until one day, the weight becomes too heavy. That's when she retreats. Her silence isn't sudden. It's a quiet answer to pain she never spoke about. She doesn't slam the door. She simply stops standing in it. 12. Women protect their hearts long after they've been broken. When someone breaks a woman's heart, it doesn't just heal and reset. A part of her starts guarding every doorway to her soul. She questions kindness. She replays motives. She becomes careful with who she lets close. It's not coldness, it's survival. She's rebuilding trust in the world, brick by brick, hoping someone will be patient enough to stay while she learns to open up again. 13. A woman's laughter can be a shield as much as it is a song. When a woman laughs, the world sees joy. But sometimes that laugh is hiding something she can't explain. Humor is often a defense mechanism, a soft veil over a scarred heart. It's easier to laugh than to bleed in front of people who might not understand. Her laughter isn't fake, it's layered. It's joy and pain coexisting in one beautiful sound. 14. Women have a unique ability to love broken things. A woman can love someone who doesn't see their own worth. She can hold a storm in her hands and call it home. She can pour light into places where no one else dared to go. This is both her gift and her curse. She sees potential where others see problems. But if that love isn't returned with the same depth, it starts to drain her slowly, piece by piece. 15. When a woman walks away, quietly, it's the loudest goodbye. A woman rarely explodes when she's done. She doesn't beg, doesn't scream, she simply walks away with everything she gave, her love, her trust, her fire, and leaves silence behind. That silence is the echo of every chance she offered, every late-night prayer for things to change. When she walks away quietly, it's because she's already screamed in her heart 1,000 times. 16. Women often carry other people's pain like their own. Women have an incredible emotional capacity. They absorb the pain of those they love as if it's their own. They worry deeply, feel deeply, care deeply, sometimes to the point of forgetting themselves. That empathy can heal others, but it can also break her if no one ever thinks to ask, "How are you doing?" A woman who carries the world in her chest eventually needs someone to carry her too. 17. When a woman is soft, it's not weakness, it's courage. Being soft in a world that has hardened her is an act of rebellion. A woman who loves despite being hurt, who trusts despite being betrayed, who smiles despite the weight on her shoulders, that's not fragile. That's powerful. Her softness is her weapon. It's proof she refused to let the world make her bitter. 18. A woman who feels deeply also remembers longer. Pain doesn't just pass through her, it roots itself, like ink soaking into paper. She may forgive, she may smile, she may even move on. But somewhere inside her, that memory lives on as a lesson, as a scar, as a reminder. And those who mistake her forgiveness for forgetfulness will learn just how sharp a quiet memory can be. 19. Women often hold back tears not because they don't want to cry, but because they're tired of not being understood. She's cried before, she's explained before, she's opened up before, and too many times it didn't change a thing. So now, when the pain rises in her chest, she swallows it down and turns it into silence, not because she doesn't feel it, but because she's learned the world doesn't always hear women when they speak softly. 20. When a woman loves herself, she becomes untouchable. The most powerful transformation is when a woman stops seeking validation from others and starts giving it to herself. She learns that she doesn't need to beg to be chosen. She doesn't need to shrink to be loved. When she loves herself, she walks differently. She speaks differently. And suddenly, what once broke her no longer has power over her. That's not arrogance, that's liberation. 21. Women remember the moments they stopped explaining. There comes a point in many women's lives where they stop trying to convince someone of their worth, their feelings, or their pain. That moment is quiet but defining. She remembers the exact second she realized that repeating herself was only exhausting her soul, not changing the situation. That's when the switch flips, from trying to be understood to protecting her peace. Once a woman reaches that place, it's nearly impossible to pull her back into the chaos she walked out of. That silence becomes her strength. 22. Women feel love through consistency, not promises. A woman doesn't fall for grand gestures alone. She falls for the small, repeated actions that tell her she matters. It's not about what someone says when everything's easy. It's about how they show up when things are hard. Consistency to a woman is love in motion. It's the quiet reassurance that she's safe, valued, and not just an afterthought. Words can melt her heart, but actions are what make it stay open. 23. A woman who loves deeply sees beauty in imperfections. When a woman truly loves someone, she sees their flaws not as reasons to leave, but as proof they're human. She memorizes their imperfections like poetry, not to fix them, but to understand them. Her love is rarely shallow. It's layered, patient, and often too forgiving. But once she realizes that love isn't being reciprocated with the same depth, she quietly gathers her heart and walks away. 24. Women notice when love starts to feel like a one-way street. She doesn't need someone to say it out loud. She notices when messages turn colder, when conversations become shorter, when their eyes stop lighting up at the sound of her voice. She notices when love starts to feel heavy. And even if she stays for a while, deep down, she's already preparing to let go. 25. A woman who loves her own company becomes hard to manipulate. When a woman learns to find peace in solitude, she becomes dangerous to anyone who tries to control her with attention or withdrawal. She's no longer chasing validation, she's choosing connection. When she enjoys her own company, love stops being a need and starts being a choice. 26. Women remember pain in silence, but they also heal in silence. Not every woman screams her pain out loud. Some bury it deep inside their chest, nursing it in the dark where no one can see. But just as they remember quietly, they also rise quietly. One day, she wakes up and the weight is lighter. One day, she stops checking her phone. One day, she stops caring. Healing for women isn't always dramatic. It's often slow, silent, and unstoppable. 27. Women see through pretense faster than they reveal. A woman might not call it out immediately, but she knows when someone's pretending. She sees it in the way their words don't match their eyes. She feels it in the energy. And though she might give them the benefit of the doubt, she tucks that knowledge away. Because once a woman sees through you, she never really sees you the same way again. 28. When a woman starts loving herself, she rewrites her story. For years, she may have dimmed her light to make others comfortable, played small to fit into spaces too tight for her spirit. But once she starts loving herself, everything changes. She walks taller. She speaks with clarity. She demands respect, not through anger, but through presence. Loving herself doesn't make her selfish, it makes her free. 29. Women don't always leave when they're hurt. Sometimes they leave when they're tired. Pain is one thing, exhaustion is another. A woman can survive pain, But the endless weight of repeating cycles, unspoken disappointment, and feeling like she's carrying everything alone, that's what finally breaks her. And when she's tired, she doesn't slam the door. She simply stops knocking. 30. When a woman loves without fear, it's a rare kind of magic. When a woman chooses to love with her whole soul, not out of need, not out of fear of being alone, but simply because she wants to, it's something extraordinary. That love is pure, fearless, and luminous. It's the kind of love that can transform someone. But it only exists where she feels safe. Because the right love doesn't cage her. It lets her bloom. 31. When a woman smiles and says she's fine, she's usually protecting herself. When she says I'm fine, it's rarely about being fine at all. It's a quiet shield she builds in the moment, because explaining herself would either cost too much energy or open a wound she isn't ready to show. It's not about lying, it's about survival. She's protecting her heart from being dismissed, misunderstood, or belittled. Behind that calm smile often lives a storm she's choosing to weather alone. 32. Women remember the way they were treated long after they forget the words. She might forget what was said, but she will never forget how someone made her feel. The tone, the energy, the way they looked at her when she was vulnerable. Those are the fragments that get stored in her chest like tiny tattoos. That's why, when a woman grows distant, it's not always because of one big betrayal. Sometimes it's the accumulation of small, unforgettable moments that changed how she sees someone forever. 33. A woman's instinct is rarely wrong, she just learns to doubt it. From a young age, women are taught to second-guess their intuition. But their gut, that quiet inner alarm, is usually right. She can feel the energy shift in a room. She can sense when someone's not being real. She knows when something's off. The tragedy isn't that she can't tell. It's that she often convinces herself to ignore it. But once she learns to trust that voice again, it becomes one of her greatest powers. 34. When a woman becomes quiet, she's already said everything in her mind 1,000 times. Her silence isn't emptiness, it's exhaustion. It's what happens when she's explained, defended, and hoped too many times. By the time she goes quiet, she's already cried in the dark, rehearsed the conversations, and accepted truths she didn't want to face. Her silence is never the beginning of a problem. It's the end. 35. Women who have been through pain love differently. A woman who's had her heart broken doesn't love with naive trust anymore. She loves with open eyes. She moves carefully, reads intentions like poetry, listens between the lines. But if someone earns her trust, her love is deeper than anyone can imagine, because she knows what it means to be shattered, and she'll never give a piece of herself lightly again. 36. Women hide their strongest emotions behind their softest expressions. She may look calm, her voice may sound steady, but inside, her soul could be shaking. Women often master the art of appearing fine even when they're not. Not because they're deceptive, but because the world rarely gives them permission to fall apart. Her soft smile isn't weakness, it's armor. 37. Women notice who makes them feel safe without having to ask. Safety isn't just about protection, it's about presence. A woman remembers who listens when she speaks, who respects her boundaries without being told, who makes her feel seen in a world that often talks over her. She doesn't need declarations, she notices actions. And once she feels truly safe with someone, she loves with a loyalty that can't be bought or forced. 38. Women don't just fall in love with people, they fall in love with feelings. She remembers how someone made her laugh on a bad day, how their voice softened when they spoke to her, how their presence felt like home. For her, it's never just about looks. It's about energy, emotion, and connection. She falls in love with how someone makes her feel when the world gets quiet. 39. A woman's no isn't always loud, but it's final. When a woman says no softly, calmly, without explanation, that's the real boundary. She doesn't need to raise her voice to mean it. She's learned that real power doesn't need to scream. Her no comes from knowing her worth, from refusing to shrink. And anyone who mistakes her softness for weakness is about to meet steel wrapped in silk. 40. Women remember who held their silence gently. Some of the most unforgettable people in a woman's life aren't the loud ones. They're the ones who sat with her when she was quiet, who didn't rush her to explain, who respected her silence instead of trying to fill it. Because for a woman, being understood without words is rare, and rare is remembered. 41. When a woman trusts you enough to be vulnerable, that's sacred. Vulnerability doesn't come easily, it's earned. When she shows you her scars, when she tells you her fears, when she lets you see her raw, it's not weakness. It's one of the most powerful acts of courage she can give. If you betray that, you're not just breaking trust. You're breaking a part of her that took years to rebuild. 42. Women who love hard also hurt deeply. The same intensity with which she loves is the same intensity with which she bleeds when she's hurt. She doesn't love halfway, and she doesn't break halfway either. That's why, when she heals, she becomes unrecognizable, stronger, wiser, harder to fool. 43. A woman who chooses herself isn't selfish, she's waking up. For years, she might have been told to put everyone else first, to shrink her needs, to be quiet. But the moment she realizes she matters just as much as anyone else, everything changes. She starts saying no without guilt. She walks away from what drains her. She stops begging to be chosen. She becomes the choice. 44. Women don't always forget. They just decide to stop bleeding over the same wound. She may smile again. She may laugh again. But that doesn't mean the pain never existed. It means she chose to stop letting it control her. Women have an unmatched ability to rebuild from ashes, but make no mistake, the lesson remains written in the deepest parts of them. 45. When a woman reclaims her power, she no longer seeks permission to exist. This is her final form, not the one built from pleasing, not the one shaped by fear, but the one forged in truth. She speaks without apology. She loves without begging. She walks with the weight of every battle she survived and the grace of someone who knows exactly who she is. A woman in her power doesn't ask the world to understand her. She simply becomes. 46. When a woman learns to listen to her gut, she becomes unstoppable. Her intuition isn't a random feeling. It's years of emotional observation, quiet awareness, and subconscious processing turning into instinct. When she finally stops silencing that voice, she starts walking through life differently. She trusts herself more. She stops waiting for proof to act. She sees things others miss, and she moves like someone who's no longer seeking permission to trust her own senses. 47. Women don't fall out of love in a day. They fall out of love in silence. It happens slowly. A little less laughter here, a little less softness there, one disappointment at a time. She stops reaching out first. She stops explaining why she feels hurt. And when she finally leaves, people call it sudden, not realizing it took 1,000 quiet heartbreaks to get there. 48. Women who learn to be alone become fearless. When she's no longer afraid of her own company, no threat of loneliness can control her. She stops chasing what doesn't feed her soul. She starts choosing her peace over half-hearted love. A woman who's at peace alone cannot be manipulated with fear. She's free. 49. Women see details. Others miss. She notices the way someone avoids eye contact when they're lying. She picks up on the tremble in someone's voice when they're hiding pain. She catches the tiny shifts in tone that reveal more than words ever could. Her sensitivity is her radar, both a blessing and a curse. She can sense truth before it's spoken. 50. A woman who loves deeply can also leave deeply. Her love is pure, powerful, and consuming. But when it's disrespected, When it's met with indifference, she doesn't explode. She detaches. And when she does, there's no coming back. She doesn't hate. She simply chooses herself over someone who wouldn't. 51. Women remember who made them feel small. Even if she forgives, she remembers the weight of every dismissal, every eye roll, every time someone spoke over her. Those moments write themselves into her backbone, not to make her bitter, but to make her sharper. A woman never forgets the moment she realized she deserved more. 52. A woman's silence is a language, and when she goes quiet, she's not always breaking down. Sometimes she's observing, calculating, deciding. Her silence speaks more than words ever could. It's the moment before a chapter closes, before a door locks, forever. 53. When a woman falls in love with her future more than her past, she's untouchable. She stops clinging to what's gone. She starts building what's ahead. She no longer needs someone to save her, because she's already saving herself. That's the moment she becomes a force no one can contain. 54. Women who love themselves attract different energy. She no longer tolerates the bare minimum. She no longer bends for crumbs. She radiates a quiet strength that makes weak intentions fall away on their own. Loving herself shifts everything, because she's no longer trying to be chosen. She chooses. 55. Women feel betrayal before they hear it. She may not have proof yet, but she feels it. The way a laugh changes, the way someone stops looking at her the same, the absence that speaks louder than lies. And even if she doesn't say it right away, she knows. A woman always knows. Psychological Facts About Women, Part 8, 56. A woman who sets boundaries has learned to love herself. It's not about being cold or difficult. It's about finally realizing that her time, energy, and heart have value. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors she controls. She decides who gets to enter and who stays outside. That's power wrapped in softness. 57. Women who have been broken become their own protectors. Once she survived being shattered, she learns to build her own armor. Not because she doesn't want love, but because she won't let just anyone near the parts she rebuilt with her bare hands. Her strength is carved from her pain. 58. Women don't always crave attention. They crave understanding. She doesn't want the spotlight. She wants to be seen without having to shout, to be understood without explaining every detail. When she finds someone who listens without judgment, she blooms. Understanding, not attention, is her oxygen. 59. A woman who has lost her fear cannot be controlled. Fear is what kept her small. Fear of being alone. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being too much or not enough. But once she stops fearing those things, she moves like a storm. Calm, steady, unstoppable. She's not waiting for permission anymore. 60. Women who choose peace over drama have mastered themselves. She could argue. She could prove her point. She could fight to be right. But instead, she chooses peace. She chooses silence. She chooses to protect her energy instead of pouring it into chaos. That's not weakness. That's evolution.
Everyone believes they understand why people act the way they do. But the truth is, the mind works in mysterious ways. What if the actions you take, the words you say, and the thoughts you think aren't as random as they seem? Let's explore some psychology facts that reveal the secrets of human behavior. 1. Your brain can't tell the difference between real and imagined stress. Stress affects both your mind and body. But did you know your brain can't distinguish between real and imagined stress? Whether you're facing an actual threat or simply worrying about an event in the future, your body reacts the same way. Your heart rate rises, your muscles tense, and your mind races. This is because the brain's survival system, known as the fight or flight response, kicks in. The next time you're stressed about something you're imagining, try to remember that your body doesn't know the difference and take a moment to breathe and calm down. 2. Being around certain people can make you feel tired. Ever felt drained after spending time with someone? It's not just your imagination. The people around you can significantly affect your energy levels. Those who are constantly negative, anxious, or emotionally heavy can sap your mental and physical energy. Your brain tends to mirror the emotions of others, which means if you're around someone who's feeling low, your mood can drop too. This emotional drain can leave you feeling tired even if you haven't physically exerted yourself. 3. Small talk isn't as meaningless as it seems. Small talk is often brushed off as shallow or insignificant, but it actually plays an important role in human connection. Engaging in casual conversation helps to build rapport and trust. When you talk to someone, even about trivial things, your brain releases chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine, which help create bonds and feelings of connection. These little exchanges can make you feel more connected to the people around you, contributing to your sense of belonging in a social environment. 4. Laughter can help reduce pain. It may sound unbelievable, but laughter is a powerful tool when it comes to pain management. The act of laughing triggers the release of endorphins, which are natural painkillers produced by your brain. These chemicals can help reduce the physical sensations of pain and increase feelings of happiness and well-being. That's why people who laugh in the face of adversity often seem to cope better with challenges. Laughter is not just a reaction to joy, but a natural response to stress and pain, helping you manage both physical and emotional discomfort. 5. You're more likely to help others when you're in a good mood. When you're feeling happy, your brain's social circuits are more active, making you more likely to engage in pro-social behavior, like helping others. Positive emotions increase empathy and kindness, so when you're in a good mood, you're more inclined to offer support, comfort, or even small gestures of kindness to those around you. It's not just about being nice. It's your brain's way of making social connections stronger and more rewarding, benefiting both you and the people you help. 6. Your mind makes decisions before you're aware of it. Have you ever had a gut feeling about something and later realized you were right? That's because your brain often makes decisions before you're even consciously aware of it. Your subconscious mind processes information much faster than your conscious mind. In fact, research has shown that your brain makes decisions up to 7 seconds before you're aware of them. This is due to the brain's ability to pick up on patterns, read the environment, and anticipate outcomes based on past experiences. So, when you get that sudden feeling that something is right or wrong, your mind has already processed all the relevant information without you realizing it. 7. Writing things down can help you remember better. When you write something down, you're not just creating a record for later. You're helping your brain process and store information more effectively. Studies show that people who take notes by hand retain information better than those who type. Writing engages different parts of your brain, enhancing your ability to recall details later. Whether you're jotting down your thoughts during a meeting or making a to-do list, the act of writing helps your brain organize and remember the information more clearly. 8. Your posture affects your mood. It's not just what you think or how you feel that affects your emotional state, it's also how you hold your body. Research has shown that adopting an open, confident posture can actually boost your mood and self-esteem. When you stand tall, with your shoulders back and your chest open, your brain receives signals that increase feelings of power and positivity. On the other hand, slouching or adopting a closed posture can make you feel more anxious, insecure, and even sad. So, the next time you're feeling down, try adjusting your posture. It may help lift your mood. 9. People tend to mimic the emotions of others. Humans are wired to connect with one another, and one of the ways we do this is through emotional mirroring. If someone around you is smiling, you're more likely to smile as well. This process, called emotional contagion, happens subconsciously. Your brain's mirror neurons pick up on the emotions of others and trigger a similar emotional response in you. It's one of the reasons why we often feel closer to people who are positive and happy. It's not just the social connection, but the emotional synchronization that occurs naturally. 10. You remember emotional events better than neutral ones. Have you ever noticed how certain memories, especially those involving strong emotions, stick with you longer than others? This happens because your brain is designed to prioritize emotionally. charged events. Whether it's a moment of extreme happiness, sadness, or fear, your brain is more likely to store those experiences as long-lasting memories. This is due to the way emotions activate the amygdala, a part of the brain that plays a key role in emotional processing. So, while you might forget the small details of your day, the emotionally significant moments will stay with you much longer. 11. Overthinking is the curse of intelligence. Intelligent minds have the ability to analyze deeply and see every possible outcome. While this is a gift, it can also be a curse. Overthinking happens when the brain takes its analytical skills too far, creating unnecessary worries and doubts. The more you think about a situation, the more potential problems your mind imagines, leading to paralysis by analysis. It's a tricky cycle where the ability to solve problems becomes the very thing that creates more problems. Learning to stop overthinking is key to making quicker, more effective decisions. 12. Compliments hit harder than cash. It's often said that money makes the world go round, but when it comes to happiness, compliments are more powerful than cash. The human brain values recognition and validation more than material possessions. When someone gives you a compliment, it activates the reward system in your brain, releasing dopamine, the same chemical that makes you feel good when you receive money. So the next time you want to make someone's day, a sincere compliment can do more for them than a bonus or gift. 13. Hearing your name changes everything. There's something powerful about hearing your own name. When someone says your name, it cuts through the noise and grabs your attention. The brain has a special way of processing your name, which makes it stand out more than any other word or sound. It's why marketers and speakers use your name so often. It creates an instant connection and makes the listener feel recognized. Your name is the key that unlocks your identity in conversations, making you feel important and valued. 14. The color blue calms the body. Ever wonder why so many bedrooms in hospitals are painted blue? The color blue has a calming effect on the human brain. It signals safety and tranquility, which is why it's often associated with peaceful environments like the sky and the sea. When you're surrounded by blue, your brain's stress response slows down and your heart rate decreases. This makes blue an ideal color for creating a relaxing atmosphere, whether it's in your home or at a healthcare facility. 15. Emotion tattoos, memory. The brain is more likely to remember events that are tied to strong emotions. Neutral moments tend to fade, but feelings of love, fear, joy, and grief leave lasting imprints. That's why you can vividly recall moments of great happiness or deep sorrow, while the details of a regular day slip away. Emotion acts as a kind of memory glue, strengthening the connection to the event and ensuring it stays in your mind longer. 16. People are drawn to those who make them feel understood. The need to feel understood is a fundamental part of human connection. When someone listens to you without judgment and makes you feel heard, it triggers a sense of comfort and trust. The brain craves validation, and when you meet someone who seems to get you, your bond with them strengthens. This is why we are often attracted to people who share similar thoughts, experiences, or values. They make us feel less alone in the world. 17. Your brain believes memories are reality. Every time you recall a memory, your brain rewrites it. This means that your memories are not as accurate as you might think. Each time you remember something, the details shift slightly, and over time, the memory becomes distorted. This is why eyewitness testimonies are often unreliable, and why your memories can change as you grow older. The brain is less of a recorder and more of a storyteller, constantly reshaping the past to fit the present. 18. Humans can spot faces in nearly anything. One of the most fascinating features of the human brain is its ability to recognize faces even when they're not really there. This phenomenon, known as pareidolia, is why you might see faces in clouds, rocks, or even the front grille of a car. The brain is hardwired to prioritize faces because recognizing emotions and intentions is essential for survival. So when we see a face-like pattern in random objects, it's our brain doing its best to stay connected to others. 19. Your intuition is based on experience. Intuition often feels like a gut feeling or an instinct, but it's actually based on your brain's vast bank of experiences. Your subconscious mind processes and stores information at a much faster rate than your conscious mind. When you're faced with a decision, your brain quickly compares the situation to past experiences, allowing you to make judgments without actively thinking. What we call gut feeling is actually your brain drawing on its previous knowledge and patterns. 20. People are more likely to conform in groups. Humans are social creatures, and one of the ways we connect with others is through conformity. When in a group setting, people tend to follow the actions and opinions of others, even if they don't fully agree. This phenomenon, known as social conformity, is a survival mechanism. Being part of a group once helped us avoid dangers. While this tendency still exists today, it can sometimes lead to poor decision-making or a lack of individuality. However, understanding the power of group influence can help you recognize when you're simply following the crowd rather than thinking for yourself. 21. Visualizing success can improve performance. Whether it's an athlete imagining themselves crossing the finish line or a student picturing their exam answers, visualizing success can actually improve performance. When you visualize yourself succeeding, your brain activates the same neural pathways as if you were physically performing the task. This practice, used by athletes and high performers, helps to prime the brain for success and boosts confidence. It's a powerful technique for achieving your goals without even moving a muscle. 22. Memories are shaped by your emotions, not the facts. When you recall a memory, it's not just the facts that you remember. Your emotions shape how you perceive and store that memory. This is why two people can experience the same event, but remember it in completely different ways. Your emotional response to an event influences how it's encoded in your brain, and that emotional connection can overshadow the actual details. It's why a happy memory might feel vivid, while a neutral one fades away. 23. The sound of your own voice can make you feel different. Have you ever heard your voice recorded and felt surprised by how it sounds? That's because the sound you hear when you speak is different from what others hear. When you speak, the vibrations of your voice reach your inner ear differently than when the sound travels through the air. This discrepancy can sometimes make you feel awkward or self-conscious. However, understanding that your voice sounds different to others can help you become more comfortable with how you communicate. 24. Physical touch can strengthen relationships. A simple touch, like a pat on the back or a hug, can have a powerful effect on relationships. Physical touch triggers the release of oxytocin, a hormone that helps build trust and deepen emotional bonds. That's why physical touch is so important in close relationships. It makes you feel more connected and supported. Whether it's a friendly handshake or a comforting hug, touch plays a critical role in how we connect with others. 25. The placebo effect is real. The placebo effect is a powerful reminder of how the mind can influence the body. When a person believes they are receiving a treatment, even if it's just a sugar pill, their body can respond as if they're getting real medicine. The mind's belief in the treatment activates the brain's healing pathways, improving symptoms even without any active medical intervention. This effect shows how powerful belief and expectation can be when it comes to health and well-being.